Later that evening, Liwei sat on the edge of the bed, restless, his mind a storm of worry as he waited for Amara. She was in the bathroom, preparing herself for the risky mission to May and James's house. Every second he waited, the weight of the danger pressed on him. He knew one small mistake could cost her life. The bathroom door opened, and Amara stepped out. The moment he saw her, he rose and walked toward her, stopping right in front of her. His eyes searched hers, heavy with concern, and he asked if she was really sure about this. He told her that if she wanted to change her mind now, he wouldn't blame her, and they could always find another way. Amara met his gaze, reading the worry etched deep in his eyes. She smiled softly, telling him that it was okay, that she would be fine. Liwei moved closer and tied her hair up, slipping a pin in place. He told her the hairpin contained a hidden body camera and that he would place another small one in her hair as backup in case the main one was removed. He explained that they would be watching everything unfold and he would stay nearby, ready to rush in at the first sign of trouble. He added that he had spoken with Master Shen, who would manage the security in May's house. Amara nodded, fully aware of the gravity of what she was agreeing to. Liwei looked at her again, instructing her that if she ever got scared or wanted to leave, she should give him a signal by touching her nose. At that, he would rush in immediately to get her out. She nodded once more, agreement clear in her eyes. He hesitated, leaning closer, telling her that it was not too late to back out, that he would understand completely. Amara smiled gently, reassuring him that everything would be okay. He told her that if they succeeded, they could finally move May and James's daughter to safety. Liwei admitted he wasn't sure if Ming would still help, since they hadn't spoken after their fight, but reassured her that they could find another way if necessary. Amara's gaze drifted to her phone for a moment before returning to him. She told him it was time to leave, moving closer and whispering that he shouldn't worry, that she would make sure everything went according to plan. She had to make sure May and James were caught in the act, and once they were, everything would fall into place. Liwei looked at her, reminding her to remember everything he had instructed. She nodded, and together they prepared to leave. As she turned, he pulled her back into a tight embrace. He held her for a long moment, neither willing to let go, leaning into her ear to whisper that he loved her, and her man would be waiting for her return, and that if anything went wrong, he would be there immediately. With that, he took her hand, and together, they walked out. Meanwhile, inside May and James's house, May stood with her security team, her voice sharp as she laid out the plan. She told them that once she gave the signal, they were to act immediately, capturing Amara without hesitation. She stressed that security had to be perfect, with no room for mistakes. The team nodded and dispersed to their assigned positions. Turning to James, she smiled, excitement flickering in her eyes. She told him that finally, the moment had arrived. They would capture Amara, and this time, everything would go according to plan. James pulled her closer, caution evident in his expression, reminding her to hope that Amara had truly lost her memory and wasn't playing games with them. May laughed softly, brushing off the concern. Even if Amara was pretending, they had drawn her into their house. The perfect trap. Nothing would distract them this time, she assured him, fully prepared and confident as. Just then, the doorbell rang. May's eyes lit up as she looked at James and smiled. She exclaimed that she had arrived and rushed to open the door. Amara stepped inside, immediately sensing the tension in the air, the sharp scent of danger, the oppressive weight of the house. Her heart pounded fiercely in her chest as she silently prayed that if her mother was watching over her, she should protect her during this perilous task. Meanwhile, Liwei and Kai's mother sat together in Liwei's living room, Liwei's eyes glued to the laptop, watching every move inside May's house. Kai's mother handed him some juice, glancing at him as he refused to break his gaze from the screen, agitation and tension radiating from him. She laughed softly and asked what exactly his relationship with Amara was, and that he seemed rather too worried about her. But he didn't respond, eyes still fixed on the unfolding scene. She continued, telling him not to worry, that nothing would happen, and that as soon as their plan began to unfold, they could rush in. The authorities were already on standby, ready to act if needed. Liwei's gaze didn't waver, locked on the laptop as Kai's mother remarked that he was different now, no longer the timid boy she remembered growing up. He had become wise, sharp, and strong, she said, and that she wished Kai was the same, for him to understand that toughness was the only way to survive in a world that would otherwise trample you. Liwei only responded that Kai was already tough in his own way, needing no comparisons. Then, something caught his attention on the screen, and his eyes sharpened instantly, Kai's mother leaning closer as she followed his focus. Back at May's house, Amara sat in the living room, her heart hammering against her chest as though it might burst. Finally, May entered holding 2 glasses of juice and handed one to Amara. Amara took it hesitantly, gripping it tightly, refusing to drink in case it had been tampered with. May smiled at her warmly, telling her she was glad Amara had made it and that she had truly left an impression. Amara forced a smile, replying that she was happy to be there. May encouraged her to drink, but Liwei's eyes narrowed at the screen, his body taut with tension, praying she wouldn't fall for the bait and drink the juice. Amara brought the glass to her lips, pretending to sip, their eyes locking across the room with false smiles, each one testing the other. Then May's phone beeped, and her expression shifted subtly, catching Amara's attention immediately. Something was about to happen, and Amara silently prayed that the hidden camera on her would still be transmitting clearly. Security guards suddenly entered, slamming the door shut. Amara jumped, feigning shock as they seized her, holding her firmly and taping her mouth. May rose slowly, moving toward her with calculated grace. She leaned close, telling Amara that she had fallen right into her trap, that today was the day she would die, and her daughter would be revived. Amara struggled against their grip as May slapped her across the face. Back at Liwei's house, he leapt to his feet, fury etched across his features. But Kai's mother held him back, asking what he was doing and reminding him that the plan was in motion and that acting recklessly now could ruin everything. Liwei's eyes burned with anger, but he forced himself to calm down, settling back into his seat with his heart tightening painfully. Meanwhile, back at May's house, the guards dragged Amara to another room as May led the way. Amara's eyes fell on the bed prepared next to May's daughter, the surgeon standing beside James with a scalpel ready. Amara felt her stomach drop, fear flooding through her, knowing that everything had to go perfectly or the consequences would be catastrophic. She had to stay composed, every movement calculated, every expression convincing, or she might very well end up giving up her heart. Amara stood there struggling as James walked up to her, his steps slow and deliberate. He looked her directly in the eyes, telling her that there was no need to struggle, that it was already too late. He added that she should have known this was the real reason he had brought her to China in the first place, and now she was finally fulfilling that purpose. Leaning in closer, he snapped her hairpin, telling her that accessories like that wouldn't be needed during surgery. Back at Liwei's house, the quality of the video dropped immediately. The clearer view had been coming from the hairpin James had just removed, leaving only the smaller camera hidden deeper in her hair. Liwei looked at Kai's mother, telling her that it seemed James had realized there was a hidden camera. He added that it was dangerous for Amara to remain in there with only one camera left, because they could discover that one too. He told her that the evidence they already had was enough to take May and James down, and they needed to get Amara out now. But Kai's mother insisted that it wasn't enough, telling him that the evidence so far wasn't strong enough to lock May away forever. She said Amara needed to be on that bed, on the verge of having her heart taken out, that only then would the evidence be airtight. Liwei's eyes darkened, saying he would never allow that. But Kai's mother reassured him that nothing would happen to Amara, that they would rush in before anything irreversible happened. She reminded him that May was slippery, and if they moved too early, she could still escape justice. She pleaded with him, telling him she had promised nothing would happen to Amara, and that they both would ensure her safety. Right now, he needed to be brave and patient. Liwei forced himself to calm down, telling her that if he sensed any danger again, he wouldn't negotiate. He would rush in himself and get Amara out. Back at May's house, Amara had already been changed into a surgical gown. They forcefully laid her on the bed, her body trembling uncontrollably as the gravity of the situation sank in. Every muscle in her shook as fear crept through her, sharp and suffocating. She tried to reach up, to touch her nose to signal Liwei that she needed help, but before she could, the surgeon leaned over, swiftly injecting her with anesthesia. Her body went limp, consciousness slipping away, her hands falling powerless at her sides. The surgeon stood there, scalpel poised, precision and intent in his movements. James and May remained side by side, their hands clasped tightly, anticipation written across their faces. Their eyes gleamed with disbelief and satisfaction, unable to believe that after everything, the moment had finally arrived. Their daughter was about to be saved. May kept her eyes fixed on the surgeon as she asked him why he was taking so long and urged him to hurry, saying time was being wasted. The surgeon told her that he couldn't rush, that he needed to make a precise cut, and that even a tiny mistake could ruin everything. He told her to be patient. James agreed, telling her that the surgeon was right and that they needed to wait. They both stood there watching, waiting for him to cut Amara open and remove her heart. Meanwhile, Liwei sat watching the screen, eyes locked on Amara. He saw the fear in her face, understood instantly that she couldn't send a signal. Panic surged through him. He shot to his feet, telling Kai's mother he was rushing in and sending the video they had so far to the authorities so they could act immediately. Kai's mother stood too, telling him he couldn't rush in now and couldn't inform the authorities yet. Liwei's gaze sharpened as he stared at her, demanding to know if she was crazy, telling her the doctor was about to cut Amara open and he wasn't going to sit and wait for that. He told her the show was over. He stepped forward, but Kai's mother blocked his path, looking directly into his eyes as she told him she wouldn't allow him to leave. She glanced toward the 2 glasses of juice on the table, telling him she had drugged his drink and that any moment now he would collapse into a deep sleep. Moving closer, she told him that in order to finally destroy May needed to commit murder, and Amara was the key. Once her heart was harvested, they would catch May in the act and her life would be ruined forever. Liwei stared at her in disbelief, realizing just how far gone she was. He had thought he was ruthless when it came to revenge, but she surpassed him entirely. Liwei looked at Kai's mother, amusement flickering across his face, perplexed that she dared to try stopping him. He stepped toward her, slow and deliberate, eyes fixed on her. A low chuckle slipped past his lips as he told her she truly must think he was a fool. To assume he would drink a drugged drink she prepared. He added that she was the one who drank it, and that any moment from now she would be the one collapsing into a deep sleep. Kai's mother's eyes widened as realization hit her. Her hand flew to her head as a wave of dizziness washed over her. Liwei moved even closer, fury radiating from him as he reminded her that he had been clear from the beginning. Amara would not get hurt, not even once, and he stood by that. She reached out, trying to grab him, but Liwei pushed her onto the couch and rushed toward the door. His heart tightened painfully as he thought of Amara, how every second he wasted could place her life on the line. Meanwhile, James and May stood over the operating table, their gazes fixed on the surgeon who was still observing Amara instead of starting the surgery. Frustration twisted May's expression as she demanded to know why he was wasting time, shouting that they had paid him heavily and yet he was stalling. The doctor told her that heart surgery required precision. He needed to analyze the angle of the cut. May strode forward, her stare sharp with rage, as she ordered him to perform the surgery immediately, claiming she didn't care about precision, that every second lost risked something going wrong. They had worked tirelessly to capture Amara, and now that she was finally in their hands, wasting time was unacceptable. The surgeon apologized, insisting he had only been cautious and that he would begin immediately. He asked her to step back, and May retreated to James's side. James took her hand, grounding her as they watched the surgeon brace himself. He leaned in, adjusting his scalpel, drawing it toward Amara's skin. The blade pierced lightly, making the first small incision. But before he could continue, the lights abruptly shut off, plunging the entire room into darkness. The surgeon froze. Panic surged through May's and James's eyes as they exchanged looks, trying to understand what had happened. James stepped forward, telling her to calm down, saying he would check if it was just a power fault. He moved toward the door, but before he could touch it, the lights flickered back on. Both he and May froze, their expressions collapsing into disbelief. Liwei and Master Shen stood at the entrance, guns raised, their eyes burning with fury. May felt her body go numb, unable to comprehend how they had gotten inside. Before she could speak, Liwei stepped forward, his gaze locked onto Amara on the bed. His eyes darkened, anger surging violently within him as he ordered the surgeon to drop the scalpel and step away. He closed the distance, gun still drawn, and demanded how the man dared lay a hand on his woman, how he dared make a cut on her. The surgeon trembled, pleading for mercy, insisting he had only done what he was told, that he had no will of his own in the matter. James tried to muster strength, his voice forced firm as he told Liwei and Master Shen that breaking into someone's home was illegal. Master Shen let out a short laugh, telling him trespassing was nothing compared to what they were doing, illegal kidnapping and attempted murder. May rushed forward, shouting at the surgeon to continue the procedure, telling him not to listen to them. In desperation, she snatched the scalpel from the floor and shoved it into his hand, ordering him to keep going. Liwei's voice cut through the room like ice as he told her to stop, telling her it was over, that the police were already on their way, and her games had ended. James's eyes widened as he demanded to know what he meant. Liwei told him every single thing they had done, from the moment they captured Amara, had been recorded, and the footage was already with the authorities. May staggered back, her body trembling violently as she screamed that it couldn't be true, shouting that their daughter needed to be saved, that this couldn't be the end. Her desperation spiraled into madness as she grabbed the scalpel again and lunged toward Amara, rage distorting her face. Before she could even get close, Liwei fired. The gunshot exploded through the room, the sound sharp and final as May's body dropped to the floor. Tension snapped through the air, thick and chilling, the moment freezing as everyone stared, the echo of the bullet still lingering like a ghost.